What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Daily Misstart. Today we're going to be talking very brief and very kind of general overview of how to take apart the FiTech system and what it looks like underneath. Now, granted, I'm not actually going to be taking anything apart because I just took it apart and I don't really feel like taking it back apart just to show you guys. So I'm going to give you an overview on what happens and kind of how everything works inside of it. And I'll do a video of me actually taking one apart and cleaning everything out in another video. But this is just kind of a very brief overview if you're getting into it or worried about getting into it because you need to do something to it and you're not quite sure. So this is going to be kind of that, you got this, you're fine. It's really not that hard. So before I get too far into this, let's go. So this is a 600 horsepower FiTech system, non-power adder. And recently I got this. This is a used system I got. I don't know exactly how old it is. I think it's like their Gen 3 system, which is, I think, 2017, 2018. I think it's kind of the circa of this one, which if I really wanted to find out, I would just search that number. But this system, I got it and it worked fine for probably about 2 months, and then it started not wanting to start, or it was really hard to start, and then once it started, it was fine, but it was a pain to start. And then it just all of a sudden didn't want to start at all. It would crank, it wasn't getting any fuel, and just didn't want to put fuel out. So talking with FiTech, they told me that it was the little brain guy under here. And what that is, I mean, so underneath this cover right here is this. So there's that cover. This is the entire computer for the FiTech system. All of that. This is all the plugins, all for all the injectors. These are injector plugins right here, those red and white ones. They're all labeled 1, 2, 3, 4 per injector. I think that's water temp or IAC or something, but I mean, that's the ground inside that little wire right here. This is the internal ground for it. That's one of the plugins for one of the internal things. But literally all you have to do to pull these apart is these 4 Allens right here, and this comes off. There's a washer, or there's a nut right here, which is what holds that ground on. Then you take that ground off, and there's a plug-in right there for that guy, which I think that's one of the other sensors. So you pull that out. All that just comes right out, and that's also nutted and bolted in. So you can take this out too. That's part of the new system because they sent me a whole new computer for this. It was $200. They sent it to me. It was going to take a while. It only took, 3 weeks to get here. So that was actually really cool that they did that. Then, as far as taking injectors and stuff out, every injector is under these. And these aren't actually, this isn't a housing, this is just a cover. So on both sides, these are covers. And the Allens right here and right there take these off. And these just unbolt. And you kind of have to wiggle them out because the injectors are seated inside of it. So you have to pull those off. The injectors are just seated in there. They're not actually bolted or anything. They're just O-ringed inside of this. So you take the injectors out. This all comes apart, and you just swap out everything. You literally just plug the injectors back in, and you just put it back in. Honestly, if you've done any kind of wiring, anything, or any kind of carburetor, you kind of understand. I mean, honestly, this is just as easy as taking an Edelbrock apart, like a 4-barrel Edelbrock. So it's just a little bit more expensive stuff and more wiring, but I mean, it's way cleaner. I don't have to worry about, jets or anything. I mean, and the cool part that they did, I forgot to mention, when I swapped over, they gave me their newest systems format for all the different systems that they have and stuff. They gave me new fuses and a new way for all their fuses to mount, and it's a lot cleaner than it was before, because before it was these are all the fuses that I had before. So, and all I have to do when I get ready to start this now with the new computer in it is I just have to call FiTech, and they'll send me the newest overlay or program for this system. That way it all knows what to do. It's really basic stuff. It's really not hard. I honestly, if it wasn't for the fact I had the battery out and the O2 sensor out, you can swap over. If you already have an FiTech system, say you have a 400 horsepower system and you want to go to a 600, you can have it swapped out in 30 minutes. Funny story, I lost, because when this one went bad, it was before the ET finals last year. So I went over to my buddies and I borrowed their 800 horsepower power router system. Now, granted, that's way overkill, but I borrowed that system nonetheless. One passed because it was rebuilt. One pass, something happened in the computer and it glitched out and it fried one of the fuses and I couldn't make it work again. So my mom came with the 400 horsepower system, which is the one I'm replacing right now. It actually works fine. I'm just using it on a different vehicle now. But she brought that 400 horsepower system and we fixed it on the return road at Sacramento Raceway. So it took me about an hour and a half and I swapped it over. And I made 2 passes that night with the new system, so with the 400 horsepower system, and it was fine. So saying that, these really aren't that hard to swap over, especially if you already have one. So say if you have a 400 horsepower system and you want to go to a 600 horsepower system, it takes 45 minutes to do, maybe, if you, especially, or an hour if you're if you want to take your time and relume things and all that stuff. So these are really really basic. Basically a really smart throttle body is all they are. So, or a really smart carburetor. It's really hard to mess up. I mean, I just kind of put this one together, I think. Oh yeah, I put that whole computer system, I swapped everything out. All of this right here, I swapped out in about 30 minutes on a bench. I took all this out, I cleaned everything, put it back in, about 30 minutes, it was just done. So, it's really cool. I'm really excited to have this and try all their new stuff. So with that being said, I will probably take that 400 horsepower system apart at some point and show you guys, and then actually show you guys what it looks like underneath. But I mean, the cool thing about these is that everything's a GM part or otherwise. I mean, each injector, you can replace it with a Bosch. It's the same. There's a Bosch injector that works with these. Any system, that's a GM plug. So I mean, all this stuff, if something goes bad, you can go to O'Reilly's, and for the most part, aside from this, I mean, if you can go to O'Reilly's and get a lot of the parts that you need for them. So that's really cool. And I mean, all the plugins and stuff are all just water seal plugs, so they're really not hard to change either. And I think the O2 sensor is a Bosch sensor even. So with that being said, I mean, you can just replace everything and it can all be Bosch and you can be good for a long time. So I'll probably end up doing that on one of the systems. At some point, I'll probably do that. I don't know when, but I'll do that at some point. So with that being said, I think that's all I got for you guys right now. I'm going to get all this together, and I'm still working on the Nova with the transmission swap and everything, so you're going to see that video hopefully up at some point later after this one. And then you'll see a bunch of other stuff with the Suburban, some other cool stuff. So with that being said, I'm going to stop saying stuff. I'll let you guys go. So be sure to like and subscribe if you're cool. And if you're not on Instagram, what are you doing? Follow us on Instagram. We really appreciate it. Especially because I want to get to 1,000 and 10,000 hopefully this year on subscribers on YouTube and on Instagram. So I'll see you guys on that note. I'll see you guys later. Peace.